Hi, I'm Yui Shu.
And I'm Julie Kraftchick.
We're active daters turned dating insiders.
Here to dive into everything modern dating and relationships.
Welcome to DATEABLE. Hello, friends.
Welcome back to another episode of DATEABLE.
I am honored to bring one of my favorite people on this show. And I think, Julie, he's quickly becoming one of your favorite people as well.
Yes, it might have been my idea to have him on the show.
True, it is. And you, every time I bring him up, you're like, he's so wonderful. And he is. He is my neighbor and friend, Greg, who has been through a lot. And he is finally ready to share his story. And let's just say he was a little nervous to be interviewed.
The thing is, I don't think I actually even knew his full story when I was like, we need to get him on the podcast. But I've been to your house a couple of times. He's your neighbor. So I've gotten to know him a bit. And I'm like, he's just a genuine person. You know how like you meet those people and you're like, they're a good human. They're a good person. And I like his take too, because he's clearly, been through a devastating divorce and started dating again, which we'll talk about. But it's also really interesting to hear. I mean, first of all, a lot of people are in this position, but then also just hearing about dating from fresh eyes and new perspective. So yeah, it's a really good one. And we're glad that we got him on the show.
Let me just set the scene for you of how I met Greg. Remember, I went to Greece after my devastating breakup due to infidelity. So I went to Greece to heal myself. And at the time, I knew that my neighbor at that time was moving out. So I knew I was coming back to someone new. The day I get back from Greece, all I see is this shirtless man walking around in this unit next to mine. And he's like singing a song. His music is loud. And I was like, thank you, universe, for delivering this ray of sunshine to my building. Because the guy that lived there before was such a dud. Like not really bad
not
energy.
A ray of sunshine.
Not a ray of sunshine. And Greg comes out. He's like, hey, I'm your new neighbor. And I'm like, yes. Thank you. But then quickly we shared our stories of like how we are in the positions we are today. And we kind of were on parallel paths going through and healing from infidelity from people that we thought were kind of like our forever partners.
UA's place is legit Melrose Place. I feel like you have like the open air. Everyone knows each other. I like every time I go there, I'm in awe because my building is so different. I don't know any of my neighbors. I'm jealous that you have like neighbor friends.
And I love that the universe delivered Greg to us. But we've talked about betrayal stories a lot, especially after my experience. We haven't really heard it from a male perspective. So we thought this was very new for us to do as well. And Greg is someone, just to like set the scene again, it's like he is someone who was committed and thought marriage was it. Like, this is, I'm going to be married to this person forever. So this came out of nowhere. He was more blindsided than I was.
Yeah. And I think he has just done so much work. You can just tell from the way he talks. Yeah. So I really like how we get into how to like actually confront the trauma directly and learn from these challenges, as painful as they are. And how do you move from a place of feeling blame? Because he talks about how he's like, I felt blame because that's what I was being told, into realizing like there is self-compassion.
Mm-hmm. And then breaking the cycle of the saying, hurt people. Greg is someone who's like, no, I'm going to stay true to myself. I have integrity and I have respect for people. And just because I was hurt, I'm not bringing that to the next person I date. And I really appreciate that he's tried so hard to stay true to him and his core beliefs.
Yeah. And we talk about like how in the last 3 years, gone through different periods of being like, okay, I'm not ready at all, versus like, I actually am ready to engage something that could be something, not just, superficial hookups or anything like that. And what I really respect that he talks about is how do you communicate wherever you're at? Because there's nothing wrong of where you're at, but it's hard in dating. I've seen this with friends that it's like, you're ready to go all in because of your life experiences. And then you meet someone that maybe isn't, and it's not because they're a bad person, but they're traumatized. realize because they just got left. And, so much of dating and relationships is timing and when you meet and how ready you are.
And getting back into dating is a whole process. How do you trust again? How do you trust yourself again? How do you know your picker's not off? And how do you show people who you really are without feeling too vulnerable, like you've divulged too much of yourself? So Greg takes us through the 2+ years that he's been back in the dating scene of how he's gone through that process. And it has not been linear.
And if you're experiencing something like this that's not linear either, what better way to talk to our dating coaching app that is powered by AI. You have your personal coach, you have live journaling where you can talk. You're on a podcast, but it doesn't get aired to anyone, which is amazing. And it's all trained with everything we've learned from doing Dateable from the last 10 years. So we're excited that Yuli is out into the world, our dating coach in your pocket. You can ask it the hard-hitting questions in the middle of the night. Of course, not a replacement for therapy. We're not saying that. Do the work still. But it's a really nice supplement. It's a supplement, a partner to therapy.
I like that. And you can download that app through studio.com/dateable. You can try it for 7 days. See if you like it. Develop a relationship with Yuli. Take her out for a test drive.
I love it. Love it. Okay. Well, before we get into it with Greg, let's hear a message from our sponsors.
Getting dressed should not be this hard, but somehow it is. And that's why I love Armoire, because Armoire makes getting dressed easy with a clothing rental membership that helps you build the perfect wardrobe with high quality, unique brands picked just for you. You just take a quick 5-minute style quiz, choose from your personalized closet, and your pieces show up at your door in as little as 2 days. I've been using Armoire a lot when I travel, and I'm heading to the East Coast soon. And instead of buying coats and sweaters I'll never wear in LA, I rented the cutest ones through Armoire. And the hot tip is I get them delivered to the hotel, so I don't have to carry them in my luggage. It's also my favorite way to test new styles without committing or cluttering my closet. I love that I always have something new to wear without the decision fatigue and without feeling guilty about wearing something once. Right now, Dateable listeners can give Armoire a try and get up to 60% off their first month. That's up to $150 off. Just visit armoire.style/dateable. That's ARMOIRE.style/DATEABLE to get up to 60% off your first month and never worry about what to wear again. Try Armoire today.
These days, I'm all about quality over quantity, especially in my closet. If it's not well made and versatile, it's just not worth it to me. That's honestly why I love Quince. The fabrics feel elevated, the cuts are thoughtful, and the pricing actually makes sense. My entire wardrobe at this point is pretty much Quince. Their cotton V-neck tee is my go-to, whether it's a nice day on its own or for any layering. It just feels so luxe and comfortable and was a fraction of the price of anywhere else I looked. And that's because Quince works directly with safe, ethical factories and cuts out the middlemen. You're not paying for brand markup or fancy retail stores, just quality clothing. Right now, go to quince.com/dateable for free shipping and 365-day returns. That's a full year to wear it and love it, and you will. Now available in Canada too. Don't keep settling for clothes that don't last. Go to quince.com/dateable for free shipping and 365-day returns. Quince.com/dateable. Okay, let's hear it from Greg.
Greg, hi. So good to have you on Dateable. Now, you are someone who became single unexpectedly after really thinking that you'd be married forever. Like you didn't think you'd be back in the dating scene ever again, right?
This is correct, yes.
And here you are. I think now it's been about a little bit over 2 years, almost 3 years since being back.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, back in the dating scene.
Oh, it's amazing. I love it.
Okay, good. That's exactly what we want to talk about. But really your journey back into dating, but also how you were able to navigate this really tough time.
Yeah. And we're excited to hear from your perspective as someone newer in the scene. So maybe you take us back to when you were first single and you were coming out of that marriage. What was it like to be thrown back into the dating world?
Well, how far back do you want to go? I mean, do you want to go like when I was first single,
Yeah.
or do you want to go back to when I first started where I felt like I was ready to date?
Maybe let's go to when you were first single, and then we'll go into when you were ready to date. We'll hit them both.
Yeah, first single was devastating for me. You're right. Like I was all in. You know, my marriage, at least from my perspective, was really great. We had just renewed our vows.
After how many years?
11.
Okay.
Well, we were together for 15 years at that time. But we renewed our vows. I think we'd been married 10 or 11 years at that point. So shortly after that is when she asked for divorce, and I was absolutely devastated. So I think during that time, just kind of based on how everything went down, I was getting blamed, and I took blame for the destruction of the marriage. And, you know, it took me a little while to understand that, you know, it really wasn't, I shouldn't have taken that much burden. And I think that was the hard thing for me, and it still is a little bit, to come out of something that you were fully engaged in. And it really turned my world upside down. So I think trying to get through the pain of that and just trying to find some footing was the most difficult part for me. And I think once I was able to stabilize a little bit and start to realize, hey, you know, you were a good husband. You did a lot of things right. You've got a group of friends and people around you who love for you and care for you. And you kind of start to settle your world a little bit. It took me a little while to make that happen, at least about a year. And then, you know, I remember having my very first date about a year after that, which I wasn't ready for. But in my mind, I thought I was. So I think the initial shock of everything, not understanding that there were any problems, and then to be faced with that kind of literally overnight, was very hard to deal with.
And I know that we were going to save the breakup story for later in this episode, but might as well talk about it now because it was a shock. Sure. And that is what caused a ripple effect of how you were able to date. You moved in as my neighbor right after I went through my traumatic breakup. And I remember like meeting you and you were like, I was totally blindsided, you know, and I felt like I saw signs in my relationship that were not good, but you were completely blindsided. You had just renewed your vows. So maybe take us to how this all went down.
Oh, story time. Yeah. And for the record, you know, I think a little bit of serendipity that you and I became neighbors.
Definitely.
On the record, I guess I should say.
Yes.
You were extremely instrumental in sharing, you know, kind of some of your things and helpful for me as what I was going through. And interestingly enough, it's put me into a place where, you know, I recognize some of my friends who are going through these things right now, and I'm able to play a role for them much way that you played for me, which I'm very grateful for. So I really want to say that.
Same.
So, yeah. So the breakup story was essentially, we had recently renewed our vows. It was a Memorial Day weekend. I believe that's the start of summer, right? Mm-hmm. So we had a Memorial Day weekend, and we had friends come up, and, you know, we went to an event together, and man, it was just awesome. We had such a great time. You know, we came home that Friday night, and, you know, we got together physically. Everything was just amazing.
You had sex.
And yeah, we did.
No one ever wants to say that on our podcast. They always say that like this really roundabout way.
We know. You are married.
I don't know if this is a family show. I don't know what the FCC is going to allow us to say anymore. I just want to be
We got together nice physically because we were virtual.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. So to me, everything was great. And then, you know, that Saturday morning, she just disappeared.
Wow.
Just gone. Right. Got up and she was out the door before 9 a.m. and just gone. And I couldn't reach her. And I remember it being a little odd. And then she came back late, you know, saying that she'd been with a friend, but it just wasn't adding up. Right. Like, but I didn't think anything of it, I thought, I could trust this person. But I had questions like this was very odd to just disappear like that and then go radio silent.
And she had never done stuff like that before.
No. And listen, I was very trusting. So if she wanted to go hang out with friends, great, go hang out with your friends. Right. Like and it wasn't uncommon for her to do that, but it was uncommon to not return like a text message or to kind of not be available.
Right.
And, this was a holiday weekend. And so she's like, well, I went to a salsa class. And I was like, so wait a minute, like it's a holiday weekend and there's no salsa classes. I actually went to her salsa thing. I looked online and she was like, oh, it was she gave me an excuse about what it was. And then, so I was like, okay. So I kind of believed her until Sunday, and Sunday, 9:00 rolled around. She was out of bed, gone again for the entire day. And I started so I was like, okay, this is really weird. So I checked her tracker, right? Because we share our locations. And I had noticed that she had stopped sharing our location.
Damn.
And I was like, well, that's odd, So I have a tech buddy of mine and I called him up and I'm like, hey man, like just out of curiosity, how is, if you're sharing location with somebody, how easy is it to just like, oops, like I accidentally stopped sharing my location with you? He's like, it doesn't work like that. You have to pretty much intentionally stop sharing it. And I was like, ooh. So, all right. So I was spinning. I didn't know what to make of what was happening. In my mind, I knew something wasn't right, but in my heart, I just didn't want to believe it, right? I just thought there had to be an explanation. There had to be something, even though I think my investigative skills have already kind of proven out something, with the salsa classes, there were no salsa classes. It was a holiday weekend, right? Like the lies were starting to add up. And, when she got home late on Sunday, I pressed her, for answers and, especially about the tracking. And she said it was a mistake, like not a mistake, but it was an accident. And, I just knew she was lying. Word selection that she had used. I can't recall exactly what she had said, but it was just like, I was like, oh, you're not being truthful with me. So I was pressing for the truth when she told me, she just flat out stopped and said, I want a divorce. And it just floored me. Like I don't even think I heard it at first, right? I think I just stayed on trying to press for the truth and I never got it. I mean, but yeah, it was kind of the first real understanding of how everything went down. And then I worked really hard to try to save it. And it was just brutal. It was brutal. She was having an affair.
Wow.
With her salsa instructor.
Oh my God.
How cliche.
Oh my God. When did you actually get confirmation of the affair? Like how much after this?
That's one of the really difficult things for me to have dealt with because, this sucks, man. This is really hard. I knew something was up. I knew she was having an affair. I didn't want to believe it. I told all my friends and I actually have a therapist that I see when I can't figure things out. I'm really pretty good at trying to recalibrate and really sit and try to figure things out on my own. And when I can't, I have somebody who's really good. And I called her and I was like, hey, this is what's happening. And she just looked at me and she's like, Greg, she's having an affair. I didn't want to hear it, but she's always batted 1,000 for me. So, she said it. And that's when it really started to hit me. But there was no evidence. There was no proof. Well, there was evidence. I found things, but I didn't want to believe it. And she lied about it, blamed me. It was all my fault. And I took that. And that's what was one of the hard things is I was believing that. One of the difficult things that I have as well is her son, my son. I adopted him. She was single mom when I met her. He knew about the affair, and she made him keep it a secret from me, much like she had told some other people and asked them to keep it secret from me as well. I had one of my very best friends that I talked to every single day who knew and didn't tell me, even though I was telling him every day, I know that she's having an affair and I'm destroyed by this, and he just wouldn't share it with me. So we are no longer friends.
Greg, did you suspect she was having an affair before you renewed your vows?
No.
Okay. So this is after she had disappeared. Okay.
Yeah. So that's when I found out, right? I found out months and months later. Actually, I found out for sure when I was living here. So it took some time for the truth to really come out. And I had a friend of mine whose wife knew. And once he found out, he was like, that's fucking bullshit. And he called me and said, what are you doing? And I'm like, nothing. He goes, I'm taking you to lunch. I'll be there in a couple hours. And his wife called my ex and said, we know. And Hank is on his way to tell Greg. And if you want to come clean, you got 2 hours.
Oh, damn.
Yeah.
Wow.
And so she called me. She kind of came clean. She said that she's seen somebody. She didn't necessarily say that she had an affair. She made no apologies.
That drives me crazy. That drives me, sorry. Yeah. This is like so triggering because it's the same thing. My ex's friend was like, oh yeah, I think he told me he started seeing someone. I'm like, you don't start seeing someone
while you're
in a relationship.
Yeah.
That's cheating. Makes no sense. That's cheating.
Yeah.
That's a nice PR spin.
Yeah. She moved straight in with him too, right?
Oh, damn.
So, that was the other thing. Yeah. There's a lot of stuff here, especially with my son and things too. But so it took maybe almost a year for me to receive actual physical confirmation that this was happening. Again, she wouldn't admit it really. It was like, I'm seeing somebody, but that was really the extent of it. At that particular moment, I remember asking her, I said, have you told our son? Does he know? And she says yes. And I made the assumption that she had just told him, but he had known for months ahead of time. Yeah. Yeah.
Wow.
Because she moved in with the guy and he needed to know that.
I can see why that first year for you was so difficult and like blaming yourself, especially if you had no idea what was going on and this person's just uprooting and saying it's your fault and all of that. I guess like what was going on in your head, even like when we know, right, the other person is maybe at fault, they did something wrong. I have like friends that are going through this too. It's still easy to blame myself. Like, how did I cause this, even though you may never have caused it, but our minds go there.
Yeah, I think that was a really challenging time in my life. I think that was probably the most brutal thing that I've ever had to deal with. Admittedly, I was suicidal.
Oh, wow.
I think the main thing was because I was being gaslit.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
There were nights where I took the blame that she was laying on my shoulders. We were still together, right? Still living in the same house. And I remember vividly a night where I was going back into my own childhood trauma, seeking answers to how I ruined my marriage.
Yeah.
Well, I would say, well, maybe it has to do with this. And she was sitting right there and she goes, yeah, I think it might be. It might have something to do with that. And I go and I think, well, maybe it has something to do with that. And she goes, yeah, that, it's probably that. That's why you ruined our marriage, so. But the thing for me was that it didn't make sense. It didn't add up. And because of that, I was literally going crazy. I found nowhere to land. And it was because I was being gaslit, right? Like it was always nothing, you know what I mean? I don't know if I can explain it really well, but she was using my trauma against me in order to, kind of hide what she was doing. And, for me, I'm sitting there trying to figure this all out. And because it's not adding up, I'm going nuts. I literally was going crazy. And I thought that that's when I really became real suicidal because nothing made any sense to me.
So your first reaction to all of this was, I got to fix this. Like, this is on me. I got to try to fix this. Yeah. And you didn't immediately go into, fuck this, I'm out too. Like, I'm going to go live my life.
I loved her.
No.
I loved her. I was committed. I renewed our vows. As a matter of fact, when we renewed our vows, I actually wrote new vows.
Mm-hmm.
And in our original marriage, I wrote my own vows. I wrote vows to not only her, but I gave vows to Tommy, my son, as well. And when we renewed, I wrote new vows for both of them. And I found them last night and I went through them.
Did.
I read them. Yeah, I read them.
Why does she... she's not here to speak for her, but I'm just asking this because it's a burning question. Why renew your vows if the marriage was failing, that you wanted a divorce? I don't understand.
I can't answer it.
I know.
I think because that was something that I came back to quite a bit, right, with her. We just fucking renewed our vows. How does, and then now you're blaming me for all these things. It was a bunch of bullshit. I think the reality of what happened was, if I could pinpoint something, is I think she just had a midlife crisis. And, instead of handling things the right way, which is a real challenge for me to understand because we raised our son to do things the right way. I vividly remember her and myself and a lot of her saying, don't cheat, be honest. I actually raised him. I got 3 things that I said: live your life by these rules, do the right thing, let people know you care, make sure they care about you in return. And doing the right thing is really important here. You don't cheat on people, right? You break up. It's the hard thing to do, but it's the right thing to do. You keep your integrity that way. But I watched her do the complete opposite of what she and I raised our son to do. And that's kind of really hard for me to really understand. But I think as having a midlife crisis, you could go one or two ways, right? You can say, hey, I'm having this crisis. Kind of help me through this. Or you can kind of revert back to teenage or childhood trauma. And that's what she did. I remember trying to go to therapy to fix this. I remember trying to woo her back. I feel like a fool. I really do, for all that kind of stuff. But I remember planning this really wonderful date night to try to woo her back. And I just remember one of the things that she said was, and she was in her 40s at the time. She's like, I don't want to have any responsibility. That's what she told me. She's like, I want to fuck who I want to fuck. I want to do what I want to do. I don't want to have any responsibility. And I'm like, man, you're a mom. How, and you're in your 40s, and what's in my mind, I'm like, what the hell is going on here? So this is where I kind of come back to probably this midlife crisis piece, but you look back on it and you kind of try to put the pieces together, but I don't really know for sure.
Let's hold that thought because we have a quick message from our sponsors.
Did you know using your browser in incognito mode doesn't actually protect your privacy? Take back your privacy with IPVanish VPN. Just one tap and all your data, passwords, communications, browsing history, and more will be instantly protected. IPVanish makes you virtually invisible online. Use IPVanish on all your devices, anytime you go online at home, and especially on public Wi-Fi. Get IPVanish now for 70% off a yearly plan with this exclusive offer at ipvanish.com/audio.
So we have a friend that's kind of going through something very similar, and it was similar
really?
Shock. Yeah, in the moment currently.
I'm so sorry.
Yeah, I mean, I think this happens more than you think. And especially once you hit a certain age with responsibilities and yearning more for that easy life. Freedom, yeah. So I guess one of the challenges I think this can face, when you are going back into I guess maybe it's a 2-part question. The first part is when did you finally accept this was over? Yeah. Okay, I'm done trying. I need to move forward with my life. This is a thing. Was it when you got confirmation? That's first part question. And the second is how do you trust again after something like this? Yeah. Because that's what I think many people go through. That was a very loaded 2-part question.
Great questions. Love that.
Loaded potato.
That. Yes. So the first part, well, I accepted it before I knew. Okay. Right. Because when I first officially found out, I was already here. We had just bought a house. Right. And, we were 6 months into the mortgage when this all went down. So, yeah. And in LA, I might add, we finally were able to do this. But I was trying really hard to get her back and to figure things out. And I had moved out and I stayed at a friend's place for a minute. And then I moved back in. And then, trying to go to therapy, it just, something wasn't making sense to me and she wasn't trying. I came to the conclusion that this wasn't going to change and I didn't deserve it. And so I realized that I needed to pick up my things and move on. Not an easy thing to do emotionally. I think it was more of a physical manifestation of what I needed to do is I needed to just get out because it was just like so painful. So I moved out. I moved in with a friend of mine while we tried to sell the house. And then I ended up here. And that's when I found out.
In my neighbor.
For sure later.
Say here, but we should clarify.
You came into your orbit and saved you. I'm just kidding.
I think there was I reached a period of time where, in the beginning when I was trying so hard, and when you realize that the effort is not being respected, it's not even being cared for.
Right. Can't do it if it's only one person.
Yeah. And I started to look at that and I'm like, I'm making all this effort and there's just absolutely zero reciprocation. Zero. As a matter of fact, it's probably in the negative.
Yeah.
And I was like, I gotta figure this out and I gotta move on. And so it was devastating to me, but that's when I decided that I needed to go. The whole healing journey, that was a whole nother thing. But, as far as physically making that decision, I made it pretty quickly.
So this is how long after, like roughly? I love timelines.
This probably would have been within 3 or 4 months.
Okay. And then after that, I know you said that it was a long process to, be in it and you weren't really looking to date and get back out there. What was that shift that I guess allowed you to kind of like trust in that process again and put yourself out there to other people?
Well, I don't know if I fully trust that process yet.
Work in progress.
If we're being honest.
But at least to get out there.
Yeah.
To get
First
out
part.
there.
Yeah. The first thing was I was experiencing massive loss, right? Massive self-esteem problems, from taking responsibility, blaming myself for so long. I mean, it had a real effect on me emotionally, and value, right? Like, why would anybody want to date me? I'm in my 50s now. And, there's all kinds of things that were going through my head that, I needed to try to get straight. My date, if you will, was somebody that I knew, and she was going through something. And I mean, it really wasn't even a date. Like, we just, I think, needed physical contact.
Yeah.
And so it was
You physically
really
came together.
That's a good example of physically came together.
It was all right. Since we're talking honestly, it was a fuck sesh and it was really great.
Oh my God.
But
okay, let's go the extreme.
But let's be honest, right? Like, if we look back on this, right, this is what was happening, right? There were two people who needed, was looking for, we've been devastated from a love and relationship and care standpoint. When you're that vacuum, and I'm a very sensitive man, right? Like, and I'm very caring in a lot of ways. Physical connection is very important to me. Not necessarily sex. I mean, it's great, but physical touch and connection is very important to me. And so when you have that, and then all of a sudden it's gone.
Yeah.
And the physical connection that you have, even with your friends, have become challenged. And the guys that you think are been in your corner are not in your corner. And that's gone. It's tough. And so, this girl and I, kind of got together and we had, we fulfilled a couple of physical needs for each other.
Sometimes you need
we're
it.
friends.
Yeah.
I mean, we're friends.
Yes.
It also at that point too, that taught me something about connection, physical connection, and how it relates to my emotions. And I felt like after that, I felt an emotional connection to her. And that was troubling for me because that was not the intent from either one of us. And so I started to pull back because I thought, all right, well, I need to be careful here because I don't want to go down the wrong road with somebody. I don't want to just try to fill in a hole without making sure that hole is really, I don't know what a good description of that is. I need to heal.
The hole
right?
filled.
Yeah. I realized I really needed some healing.
Yeah.
In order to establish a true connection with somebody. And so that happened within, 8-9 months, that particular incident. And then I think my first date was maybe a year and a half.
Okay.
Yeah.
Tell us about that first date. How did you find this date?
Bumble.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was there when you started online dating, and you were like,
I remember.
This is great. Like, this is amazing. So tell us about that experience, because you had never been online dating before, right?
Wait, before we go there,
No.
okay, sorry. Just as someone like listening, I love it that you're like, this is great. I'm so excited to do dating. But like, how did that correlate to where you were headspace? Because like a second ago, it was like, I'm in this bad place. I'm clearly in a better place now. And then we'll go into that.
Yeah, no, listen, I think I had gotten to a spot where I had convinced myself that I was ready to date. I wasn't ready. I mean, if I'm just being honest.
But you at least thought that in your head. Yeah.
I thought that, right? But yeah, I really wasn't, but I thought I was, so open up these dating apps and it's like, wow, like, oh, there's a lot of people to choose from here, and that to me was exciting at first.
Okay.
I've since changed my mind quite a bit, but when you're out of the dating world for a while and you're not going out and, as much as you used to, and your social circle is small, it gets even smaller, after something like this. It becomes difficult to meet new people, to find new circles. And so this to me looked like a tool where I was like, oh, wow, look at all the circles of people that I have the potential to connect with. And so at first, very exciting. I had my first date and she was lovely. I liked her. We had a second date and it was wonderful. And then we had a third date and she pressured me for a relationship. And after 3 dates, and she knew where I was at. And I told her, I'm very honest about things. I said, you're my first online date. And yeah, I just, I tried to say, hey, listen, I need time to get to know you. And she wasn't having it. So like that was kind of an eye-opening experience for me in a lot of ways, because now I also understand and realize that, there's a lot of people who have experienced trauma as it relates to dating. And it's also been my experience after kind of doing this for a little while now. Not a lot of people have really done the work to put themselves in a position to really connect with another person on a deeper level, right? They just haven't dealt with the pain. And so that's kind of now the challenge that I'm dealing with when I'm trying to date right now. And the apps, I'm still on.
Yeah, pause that though.
All right, we're pausing.
I want to go back to the first date.
Okay.
I was there. I mean, I wasn't physically there, but you told me about it.
You was in the corner at the bar.
Yeah.
You were so excited because you are such a giving, chivalrous person that I remember you saying, like, you got there early so you can order food or something ahead of time, right? So when she showed up, like, everything was ready for her. Yeah. Like, to me, I'm like, no wonder she thought this was going in the relationship direction, because all of your behavior was toward like a relationship. You were acting like a couple, and I totally understand now where she was coming from. It's not like you were sending mixed signals, but tell us what was going on through your head, because I remember you telling me, well, this is the way you treat people on dates, right? Like, this is what you do.
Yeah. Well, at least I think that's what you're supposed to do. I mean, when I ask somebody out and I go out on a date with somebody, right, I want to be thoughtful, right? And I think one of the ways to do that is, take the time to plan it and make a reservation. They don't take reservations. Get there early. Make sure that she has a place to sit. Try to get a nice table that's away from the door. Where if like cold air, people coming in and out, or whatever. Like it could be. I just think you want to be thoughtful around providing a great experience, to somebody you're going to meet for the first time. I feel like that's 101, but maybe I'm wrong. Maybe there's not a lot of guys that would think about those kinds of things.
I actually think this is one of the biggest, like, maybe benefits of not being jaded in dating is that you are just thinking about it this way. And especially if you come from a history of relationships, like, you're treating treating someone, even if it's not a long-term relationship, you are in a relationship for that night, right? Or whatever it may be. So you want to treat someone a certain way. So I don't think I think that's great. And I would say keep doing that and don't stop. I think though, you bring up an interesting point though of no wonder to this girl, it felt like this is where a relationship was going. And I do see like the side of like, oh, well, this person's relationship oriented, so I could build a relationship with them. That being said, though, 3 dates in is like pretty early on to be like, I need exclusivity. Yeah. But I do think this actually happens quite often. I've seen this with friends that one person has been waiting to meet that relationship ready type person. And once they do, they're ready to go. They're ready to define it. They're ready to, get engaged and move it along. And then you have this other person that might be coming from a background where they're more reluctant. Maybe they've gotten out of a divorce or they've had some trauma like you. Yeah. I see Greg raising his hand for anyone listening. But this happens a lot. And I've had friends that have really gotten heartbroken by this. And I get both sides, right? It's like on one side, I'm in this place in my life and I'm in this other place in my life. Like, how do you rectify this? Like when you're dating, like what's your take of like how I'm sure you've run into this a lot of times probably.
Yeah, with everybody you've dated.
Yeah. Well, not everybody, but I think that's a great question. And I think to me, it's about doing the right thing.
Yeah.
It's about letting people know that you care, right? So, and I think you do that by being honest.
Yeah.
I am very honest with people. Sometimes my honesty isn't necessarily the most tactful, but I am honest, right? Like, so, with this particular person, I was very clear. I was like, listen, like, I need time to get to know you before I commit. And I was very clear. I was like, I'm not dating anybody else.
Yeah.
And I'm very interested in getting to know you, but she wanted a physical commitment. And there's just too many variables for me to do that on a third date. Like, one, just my own kind of traumas and being able to trust people again. But also, she had 2 kids, in their teens. And I'm cool, like that didn't bother me, but I hadn't met them.
Right.
And, there's some serious things that need to be discussed and navigated around that we hadn't even really had discussions about. And you want to lock something down. So for me, I just feel like the best that I can do for anybody that I'm with is just to be honest and to share my feelings about where we are and our challenges and what is maybe scaring me from making a commitment or very simply, I like you. I'm not ready for commitment. I'm very interested in continuing to get to know you in a lot of ways. So I am extremely petrified of finding somebody and this happening to me again.
Yeah.
And I'm also very clear about that with people as we get, because I've had some, not a lot, but I did have a girlfriend at one point and we did have this conversation. Yeah, that's for me, I think all I can do is be open and honest, share my feelings and my traumas. And, if somebody is the right person for me, they'll listen, they'll understand, they'll share their side of what they need. And I think that's, in my opinion, I don't know what else to do, right? If I'm going to try to find a successful relationship. So, and that's not for everybody. So if one of your friends, they want a relationship now, I'm probably not the guy for them. So,
that's good.
I get
it
that
out there. Yeah.
Yeah.
I want to dive into this even more, but before we do, let's take a quick break to hear from our partners.
What's difficult about this is I keep thinking back to that first girl you dated, and she had been on the market for a while. She's a divorced mom. She was not treated very well. And here comes this guy who treats her very well, who is acting like a partner in these 3 dates, albeit short, but like in the time that she's known you, she's like, here, finally, this guy comes along. He treats me with respect and integrity. yet he doesn't want a commitment. Like, I can see how that would send her on a spiral to be like, finally, I meet someone who treats me well, but he still doesn't want a commitment. And she probably goes off and tells the story to all her friends, like, there are no good guys out there. None of them want a commitment. Even the good ones don't want to commit, and then she has her hero's journey that's very different than yours. So knowing this, because she spiraled and a few others have as well, be honest with us. Has that ever made you think, I'm going to treat people a little bit less thoughtfully? Like, I'm not going to plan out these dates as much. Okay.
I'm glad it doesn't.
And why is that? Why is that?
Because I need to be my authentic self.
Good.
If I don't do that, I'm not being true to who I am.
Yeah.
And then I'm setting up a relationship under false pretense. That's how I look at it. I don't want to say I'm a sweet guy. People say I'm a sweet guy, right? They say that I have good values and that I do the right thing and that I'm thoughtful and those kinds of things. And I like to think that I do. So at this point in my life and from what I've learned, I just need to be me.
Yeah.
And if you're going to like me for me, great. So, in the very beginning, I just feel that I just got to be authentic. And my authentic self would do these things. And continue to do them, right? I'm not the type of guy that I'll plan, the first date and then, oh, sweet, I got her, right? Like, let her do all the work now. I'm just going to be who I am. So I've never really thought about that.
Yeah, I don't think the solution is to like become a jerk or like do less than. Like, I think
I've thought about it. To be honest,
you've thought about it.
I have. I've thought about it.
So you don't lead people on, quote unquote, even though you're not leading them on.
It's not that. Sometimes I'm a nice guy, and I've had dates where I haven't been chosen. Right? I've had dates where I feel like something's going pretty well, and then all of a sudden it's like, hey, I've decided to make a commitment to this other guy, so it was really fun. Good luck to you. And I'm like, oh. Okay. And so you kind of go, when you have those kind of things happen to you, you kind of look at yourself and you're like, what am I doing wrong? Right. And so sometimes I feel like, you've heard the cliche, nice guys finish last. And there are times where I've thought, do I just need to be a dick? But inevitably it always comes back to, that's not who I am. I need to be authentic. And I just gotta trust the process. And the process has led me to a lot of self-love and a lot of self-confidence. And I like who I am. If I just be me, I think I'll find the person that likes me.
That is the right attitude.
Or loves me.
Yeah.
Loves me.
Yeah. Loves you. I love it.
Let's go with that.
That's right. I mean, I think with all these situations, like you are to other people and other people are to you, like you don't really know what's going on in their lives and like what's making them choose someone. Like you being an asshole, is it going to maybe like make them like switch gears? So I do think that's like a losing battle to like go down this like feeling of like, well, I should make this move to like play chess and like get it, So I guess you take us through the first experience dating. You did allude to like your feelings of excitement and being down for the apps have changed a bit. What's kind of that cycle look like? Like, was it like the first year of dating, you're still gung-ho and excited, and then year 2 it starts to shift, or like what's that look like?
Are you talking about dating or are you talking about the apps?
We could separate them out. Dating as a whole, like your feelings towards dating, and then your feelings towards the apps.
I love dating.
Okay.
Right? I do. I enjoy meeting new people and seeing where the possibilities could potentially go. But with that said, I don't date often. And that's because I'm very selective around the people that I want to spend my time with. I have learned that for me, I am looking for love, right? And so a 25-year-old who hits me up on Bumble and says, hey, there's not going to be a connection there. Could I go out on a date with a very attractive 25-year-old? Yeah, I could, but I'm not going to waste my time doing that. So I'm very selective. So I want to make like, I'm not like, hey, I'm dating. This is great. Like, blah, 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 blah. No, I'm very serious about finding somebody. And so in doing that, I need to be serious in that and not spend time with people who are going to, and I don't want to say a waste of time.
Yeah.
They're not going to lead me to where I want to be. And that's in a loving relationship or a long-term relationship.
Okay. So maybe that shifted over the years, because it sounds like the first year you weren't looking for that. You were like, I'm not ready. already. Yeah.
Yeah.
Tell us about that.
That was a younger girl, and that served its purpose, but that's not the long-term goal. And so I want to make sure I'm very focused on that. So I do enjoy dating, but as it relates to the apps, I'm not really a fan. At one point I was, but the connection is it's almost like disconnecting in a lot of ways. And so it's more frustrating and depressing to me, being on it. So, I pretty much kind of abandoned them for the most part. I kind of feel like being on those kind of traps you a little bit, keeps you from getting out into the world and actually physically meeting people and connecting with them in person. So I've kind of taken a little bit different of approach, and I dabble in them. The majority of my time is spent trying to find things outside of my home that I enjoy doing. I enjoy dancing. I enjoy weight training. I tried Pilates for the first time the other day.
Nice.
Yeah.
Reformer?
Oh my God, I'm so sore. Because physical fitness and health and wellness and these things are very important to me. So why not go spend time in those environments where you potentially have the opportunity to meet somebody who has something that's important to you in common?
Well, especially in a Pilates class, if you're a straight male in a Pilates class is like a gold mine.
Yeah, I don't know about that because I looked really weak.
Vulnerable, not weak.
Men in Pilates.
Look at that guy. He's struggling. Oh my god!
And by the way, our audience should know, because they're listening to this, you are so muscular that to see you, I would pay to see you struggle in a Pilates class, because you walk around with your Hulk muscles, It's just you trembling on a reformer.
Literally shaking, trembling for sure. Yeah. I mean, the instructor actually came by and was like, Greg, come on. You can do this. And I'm like,
no, it's different. It's hitting different muscles.
Shaking.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Muscles.
Yeah, it's totally different. It's totally
different.
different. But I enjoyed it. I'll be going back for sure.
So do you think your strategy has just changed based on where you are right now? Like at the beginning, you're like, I just want to go out and meet as many people and not have a serious relationship. And now it sounds like you're more open to something serious again.
Yeah. I think, I was open. Listen, in the beginning, I was open to something serious. I felt that I was ready, but I wasn't. Right. Mm-hmm. And now only in the position that I'm in, looking back, can I understand, dude, you weren't in the space for that. Right. So I think with a lot of experience and focus and spending a lot of time practicing mindfulness and really sitting in the pain, doing things that challenge my healing. I think I need to get to a place where I understand my own traumas and to be able to deal with those before I can fully be accessible to another person. And I feel like I've reached that point. I don't feel like I'm fully healed, but I feel like I'm at a point where, the trauma of my past relationship isn't driving my future. I had told you, one of the things that I did most recently was I went out to Maui. Maui in Hawaii is a very special place for me for a lot of reasons. One, in my college years, I fell in with a bunch of Hawaii guys. When I first got to college, my parents were going through a divorce, and it was very, very difficult for me. And these guys became family, right? Ohana. And so that Hawaiian culture, that family culture meant so much to me. And I hadn't seen these guys we all hadn't been together in 17 years. And so they were going out. One of the guys was heading back to Maui for the holidays. And the other piece of that was that was always a place for me where I felt connected to the world, to the universe. It was a place that allows me to slow down. The culture there, the family, it's buried deep in my heart. I shared that with my ex. Took her to the islands and we got married there.
Yeah, I was going to say, let's not bury the lead. It's where you got married.
It's where we got married.
You reclaimed that.
I reclaimed it.
Like that.
So like I said, one of my friends from college, he never left. We went to college at Creighton in Nebraska. He never left Nebraska. So I don't know why, but so he decided he was going to come back. And so I'm there. And I used that trip for a few different things. One, to reconnect with some of my very, very best friends, right? Second, it was to use that trip to reconnect with myself. And the third part of that was to run up against my trauma.
Yeah.
I kind of have this idea that you can't heal in a vacuum. that you can go to all the therapy you want in the world, but until you actually physically get out and run up against what it was that put you in therapy, you don't know if you're ready to deal with it or not. Mm-hmm. So I booked the hotel where we stayed.
Oh,
where we got
wow.
married.
You really leaned into it.
Wow, you went the exact room.
No. But I could see the room where we were, but no, and that wasn't the exact room, but it was the same facilities and it was the same space. And I remember at night, one of the nights, I walked the area where we had our reception. Wow. And I filmed it. I sent it to my mom. It was interesting because the space had been repurposed.
It's kind of symbolic.
Yeah.
I thought so too, right? Very symbolic of that. And then I think the other thing is that, it didn't give me negative emotions, right? Yeah. I think I probably cried myself to sleep every night for the first year. And I'm not kidding. And I was wondering how this was going to affect me. And I shed no tears. It was just a place in history for me. I felt really good about that. I felt very, like, hey, man, like you've come a long way. And I know I still got a little ways to go, but I feel like, putting yourself in situations that allow you to face, the things that have hurt you, I think is really important. Because if you want to move into another relationship, I think you want to be very well prepared for those kinds of things, because if you don't deal with it yourself, then you have the possibility of pushing that on somebody else. And I don't want to do that.
You used the word petrified earlier, and I want to double down on that word because it's a pretty intense word. I want to know, what are you more petrified of? You hurting someone or someone hurting you the way that your ex-wife did?
Oh, I'd say somebody hurting me.
Yeah, okay. And are you more petrified of the same thing happening again?
Yeah, 100%.
That's like kind of similar to the question I had earlier of like, how do you regain that trust? And what I'm hearing is like some work has been done, but it's not fully healed at all with it. Like, correct. How do you think you get to that place that you do trust someone again? Like, do leap into something serious? Like, is this something you've thought about?
Yeah. I mean, I'll be honest. I've made one commitment to somebody. I made it twice actually with the same person, but that's it. I think, how do you get there? I don't know if I'm ever going to fully get there, right? I don't know if I can ever fully be like, oh, this person would never, right? Because I don't know if I have that kind of faith in people at the moment. I think the only thing I can do is the best that I can, which is to communicate.
Yeah.
Which is to not just communicate my things, but to ask questions and to be curious and to understand them and what their traumas are, and to be sensitive to those and to be able to try to help them through. And I think good communication helps with that. I think being vulnerable helps with that. If I can be vulnerable and the person that I'm seeing can be vulnerable, I think that's a good start. I think you have to choose to stay in a relationship and treat it the way it deserves to be treated on a daily basis. You got to put some work into it. I think if I can find somebody that can be authentic and can share their traumas and be vulnerable with me and commit to doing the work, I think that's what's going to get me to the place where I can really trust somebody again. Did I answer that? I don't know if I answered that right.
No, you definitely did.
There's no right or wrong.
And the reality too is like, of course, we want to trust other people, but like at the end of the day, there is something valuable of knowing like you went through something so devastating and you were able to pick yourself back up, regardless of what happens with another person.
Thank you. Yeah. I think the other thing, if I might say, is that I've become, I don't want to say like a private investigator. I don't want to say that, but I'm like keenly dialed in to things that people say and what they do. And do their words match their actions? Like I am all in on red flags. And, if something doesn't match, then I kind of like, all right, this person can't be trusted. And I'm kind of start to fade out after that. So those kind of things are also really important.
Do you think with the 3 years, Is there anything you can see now in hindsight in your marriage that like maybe you overlooked at the time now that you've got in that space? Like, do you see some of the areas where maybe there were some cracks?
Yeah. I mean, certainly. Yeah. If I'm being honest with myself, like if I knew what I knew now, right? Like if I were this aware of myself and what's important, I'd have pinpointed some things in her early on, which would have said, you probably not want to marry this one. But at the time, those things to me were exciting.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, I think that's a huge point too. That's why I wanted to ask, because our younger self, and there's nothing wrong with that. That was just like who we were at the time. We didn't have the life experience that we do now.
Yeah.
May have overlooked some things or, given trust where trust maybe wasn't fully earned or wanted to see the best in someone. And all that again is like commendable, but like, was it maybe realistic or wanting to see the parts that weren't so great? So I think coming into dating, like we obviously don't want people to get so jaded they're finding every last tiny red flag, but like being aware of like what you need, what's important to you, communicating and having those skills, like you were saying, and then, being aware of like what makes someone a trustworthy person and being able to talk when something comes up and address it head on is already setting you up to a better place than maybe the younger self just wasn't as aware.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. And I think the other thing is, as I've matured and worked on myself and done a lot of these things, is having the hard, difficult conversations are easier.
Yeah.
I think when we're younger, we tend to avoid those things. Now I strive to have the hard conversation early on because that's going to tell me a lot of what I need to know. And, the other thing is you meet somebody and, it's nice. It's lovely. It's fun. It's exciting. You don't really see, nobody wants to get into the first date and go, here, let me tell you about all my traumas.
Right.
Right.
Well, people do.
So, I get that, but I think that, with some limited conversation, that's fine. But I don't want to dilute myself by just capitalizing on the excitement, right? Like you want to understand who this person is. And when it gets difficult or when it gets hard, how are you going to resolve conflict? How are you going to resolve differences? How are you going to come together as a couple? And, you'll find quickly not everybody is on that type of page. And so that's difficult. That's a difficult thing for sure. But I think if you have the capabilities to be able to have these types of conversations with people and they can open up and have them in return, you can have that hard conversation. That's a good sign to me.
I guess before we go into takeaways from this convo, do you have any parting words for anyone that's getting back into the dating scene after getting out of a long-term relationship or marriage?
Yeah. Take your time. Take your time. I think for me, and I've watched this through some other friends as well, is like, I think the immediate response is to fill the hole.
And as many holes as possible.
I had to go there, Yue.
I had to. When you physically come together to fill those holes.
I do appreciate that. So you're funny. But for real though, take your time. If you can't figure out on your own, find a good therapist. Confide in friends who give you honest feedback. And I'm very fortunate that I have friends who will tell me the things I don't want to hear. Find those people, right, to resource yourself because they're going to tell you like, nah, Craig, what are you doing? Like, what are you thinking? That type of resource is very valuable. And I'd say the other thing is spend time really working on yourself for who you are, what you like, what your values are. Spend the time searching your soul and dealing with the trauma. Because if you're not to a place where you're healed enough to be your authentic self, you're setting yourself up for another heartache. You're setting yourself up for another disaster. And that's probably the best advice that I could give is to really just that and then read DATEABLE. That is probably at the top of the list.
The only book you need to read. Whatever. I saw you cheating on you're cheating on us with Jillian Turecki. I saw her book on your coffee table.
This is true. You did see it. It's a great book.
It's okay.
It's a great book.
You could have multiple healers.
Yeah. But I think that's important,
yes.
right? I do. Because I think, listen, a lot of the advice that you've given me has been gold. And I've gotten pieces from other people too that have allowed me to get to where I'm at. And I think be vulnerable with yourself. Be able to admit the things that maybe you don't like and do the work to change. Also, at the same time, realize your own value. Mm-hmm. I think that is a critical part to this as well. Better, more in touch person that you can become opens the door to somebody who really values those things. If you know yourself that well, and and let's be honest, right? How well do we all know ourselves? 70%, 80%, So, you got to continue to do the work, to make yourself better for somebody else. And hopefully you'll find that person that's going to do the work to make themselves better for you. And coming together with two people who are self-confident and know themselves well and understand that the things that affect them, also the things that you do affect somebody else. There's just a lot to it, but I would just say spend time, take your time.
I love that.
Yeah.
This has been such a powerful conversation. I mean, I have so many takeaways. I did want to start, though, before I go into my takeaways. There were 3 things that you said that I want you to repeat for people that you had told your son. The be honest, right? What were those 3?
So it's a life philosophy that you can apply to friendships. You can apply to your business or your work, sports, whatever it is, right? It's 3 things. It's do the right thing. We all know what it is.
Yep.
Sometimes that's the most difficult thing to do because it's always easy to do the right thing when it's easy.
Yeah.
Sometimes you got peer pressure, money, these kinds of things that get involved in these kind of things kind of force sometimes people to make the wrong choices. But if you do the right thing, your conscience will never bother you. Nobody can say anything negative about you because you're always right with yourself. Do the right thing. Yeah. The second thing is let people know you care. And you can do that in a lot of different ways, right? You can do that by saying to somebody, I love you. You can do that with action, which I prefer. You show somebody you're there for them. You picking a friend up at the airport. Great way to show somebody that you care. And the final piece of that, and this sometimes is the hardest part, is making sure that people care about you in return. And they'll show you. You may have a business client who continuously just grinds you down to where you rarely make any money. That guy's not showing him or showing you that he cares about you and your business. As an example, right? You may have a teammate who is constantly late for practice or they're showing you they don't care. So, in a relationship, it could be the same thing where if somebody, you're like, hey, this is really hurtful or this is bothering me. And then they don't change their behavior. They're showing you they don't care. So when somebody shows you they don't care, it's time to walk away. And that's a hard part for a lot of people to do. Yeah. So do the right thing. Let people know you care. Make sure they care about you in return.
I'm so glad that you reiterated those because I think that to me is the grand takeaway of this. But I do love too how you said I'm going to stay doing this stuff. I don't care what the dating world is because we've seen people on the show be I'm going to go to the lowest common denominator. If they ghost me, I'll ghost them back. Or I'm going to learn to be a fuckboy because that's what people want. And I'm glad that you're nope, these are my values and I'm going to stay with them. Yeah. And the part around reclaiming yourself is so important of just through the whole process, whether that's physically going to the locations. I mean, it's not the same scenario, but I did something similar of going to this place where I was supposed to go with an ex of mine. This was this big plan that never happened. And when we broke up, I'm I'm going myself, I'm not letting this ruin my own happiness. So I think, of course, maybe you don't go to the place you got married right when you get divorced. Give it time. But I love the idea of this is my life. And, you know, like, I'm going to work through the trauma. Like, of course, talk to people, talk to professionals. But I love that you made the distinction of like talking versus doing, and coming up against it is so important, actually facing it. The other point I wanted to call out was like this fully healing versus not healed enough to be your authentic self. Because I don't believe we're ever fully healed, and you can heal in a relationship, but there is a difference. There's a difference of going into a relationship when you're still carrying a ton of weight from a past relationship or something else you're dealing with, and you're not able to be present, to give yourself, to be authentic. So I like that line of like, I had to get to that place that I could be myself, that I wasn't leading with this. Right. Then I can go in, but I don't have to be 100%. And I think the last thing I want to call out is like this conversation. I love doing stuff like this because it's so human to just hear people's experiences. And it's a good reminder that people are just coming from different experiences. And like I know like you called out earlier of like, it's so easy to go to like, this guy's an asshole because he's not committing. But it's like, we don't really know what's going on with people. It's easy to go to that generalization, but it's actually more in depth to be like, actually, this person is a good person. They're just not there yet. And that's okay. Like no harm to them. It just says nothing about them. It says nothing about me.
Yeah.
Well, it's interesting that you say that, because the girl that I had committed to was the exact same thing, right? She just not ready.
Yeah.
But it doesn't change my mind about who she is as a person. She's a lovely person, just not ready. And so again, I think, you know, trying to get to a place where you're ready, where is, you know, and you only do that by working on yourself and facing these things and spending time in the mud, you know?
Exactly.
I think, you know, when you go through betrayal in a relationship with someone you love, it changes the very fibers of your being. It changes who you are. But I will also say to anybody who's like, oh, I need to go through betrayal to come to this realization, you don't, because we experience many betrayals in dating too. When someone ghosts you, when someone doesn't text you back when they said they would, that's also betrayal. So just know that this applies to everybody. You don't need to go through the big betrayal to experience this. But the big difference here I want people to hear is when you go through betrayal, you are at a crossroads and you can make one of two decisions. You can either say, I'm going to spend the rest of my life trying to suss out if this person is honest and trustworthy, or I can spend the rest of my life trusting myself and building that trust with myself. And I think this is something that I'm so admirable, or I find you so admirable, Greg, in the time that I've known you, and you didn't explicitly say this, but you spend most of your time building trust with yourself. I've never heard you say, well, so-and-so, like you're not spending your time talking about the other person and wondering if you should trust them or not, or wondering if their feelings are real. You actually spend a lot of time asking yourself, are these the feelings I'm feeling? Do I want to feel this way around this person? And just stepping into your apartment where it's a new self-help book every week just shows how you spend so much time, which what all of us should be doing is building that trust and relationship with yourself. And who cares? You have no control what other people will do. I get asked this question all the time. How can you trust again? I can't. I'm sorry. I don't know if I can trust fully someone else, but I fucking trust myself. And that is all that matters at the end of the story is I trust myself.
Yeah. And thank you for that. I appreciate those compliments, Yue. That's very kind. Thank you.
I love this. This was such a great conversation, and I'm hoping it helped other people, because I know there are a lot of people in a similar situation, whether you've had the big B or the little b. I like that distinction.
Awesome, Greg.
Yeah, and thank you guys. I thoroughly enjoyed this, and I'm hopeful as well as that, man, if somebody gets a little nugget of gold out of this and it's helpful to them, then great. That would be wonderful. Yeah, I appreciate you guys having me on today.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Greg. And thank you to everybody who followed along for this very vulnerable conversation. Have you experienced something similar, and what are your biggest takeaways? Why don't you leave us a rating and review on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, and you can tell us what was your biggest takeaway from this episode with Greg.
And remember to get How to Be Dateable, because it's healing. From Greg's mouth. Exactly.
Yes, we didn't even have to pay him for that. On that note, we're going to wrap up this episode.
Stay dateable.